Good afternoon, folks, and welcome to episode 241 of the Sticks and the Six podcast. As always, I'm your host, Andrew Forbes, here with my co-host, Peter Barricchini, and we've got a lot to talk about over the past week. It's become trade mania.
It's
Maybe
an
the most.
understatement with a lot of trades.
It's been the understatement. We're talking like top 10 draft picks. We're talking star players. We're talking everything has happened over the last, I want to say, 5-6 days. And you can tell with the hair a little disheveled because just so much has gone on in the last little while here. But before we get into all of the trades, as we head into the draft, I was going to say deadline because I'm so used to trades happening. I know. I think we've seen more action this deadline or this off season so far than we've seen in the last three trade deadlines combined. But anyways, with that in mind, how you doing this week, Peter?
Doing great, man. Yeah, this has been a wild week. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't anticipate. I mean, probably anticipated it to be a wild off season, not leading up into the NHL draft. I mean, this has just been absolutely insane. Like the whirlwind 72 hours basically ever since Sunday. And now there's still more rumors, more chatter going on. And yeah, I kind of agree too how every single trade deadline, it's very quiet. Nothing happens. No disrespect to like the TSN panel because they do a great job with that, but maybe you just cancel the trade center and just wait until trade deadline day, or not trade deadline day. What am I saying?
The
NHL
off-season.
draft, the offseason. You wait
The
until free
off-season.
agency, the NHL draft, because that's when all the moves seem to be happening right now, right? Not so much in March because it's just like what 1, 2. I mean, you're gonna have moves, but everything happens towards the end of the deadline, like at 3:00 or 2:50, right? So why not just get rid of it? Make it a 3-1 special. Trade center, draft, free agency.
Yeah, I know it's definitely things are cooking, and as always, we've got boots on the ground with friend of the show Mark Shag at the NHL Draft in Buffalo with a lot
some info.
Already dropping info you just talked about prior to us jumping on the show here. The Leafs are not done, which obviously gets us going because we know that when it comes to the Leafs, we need to know everything. So, but I gotta say we're gonna run through all the trades real quick here. Then we're gonna kind of break down a couple, but it's been insane what's happened over the last 4 to 5 days, right? And I think the last trade we actually talked about on this show was last week in the Joseph Wall trade. Since then we've seen a ton. So here's how the trades have broken down so far. Keep in mind, the NHL draft is just around the corner. It's this weekend, and top 10 picks were at play this past week and continue to be at play as we move into the this weekend's draft. So keep that in mind as we go through it. June 16th, we saw the Nashville Predators acquire forward Ross Colton and goalie Isaac Posh from the Colorado Avalanche for goalie Magnus Corona, a third-round pick in 2026 and a third-rounder in 2027. The 17th, we saw the Sharks acquire defenseman Michael Kesselring and a first-round pick in the 2026 NHL Draft, number 27 overall, from the Buffalo Sabres for a first-round pick in the 2026, which was 20 overall, so moved up 7 spots. The 18th, the Sharks acquire unsigned forward Andre Gasso and a fourth-round pick in the 2026 NHL Draft from the Boston Bruins for a fourth-round pick and a fifth-round pick in the 2026 Draft. Of course, the Toronto Maple Leafs, we'll talk about this shortly. The Toronto Maple Leafs acquired defenseman Darren Radish on the 19th from the Tampa Bay Lightning for a fifth-round pick in 2026 and went on to sign to an 8-year deal. We'll talk about that shortly. The 21st, Seattle Kraken acquire forward Maki Samoskevich from the Florida Panthers for a first-round pick in the 2026 Draft, which ends up being 25th overall, and a conditional second-round pick in 2027, which we knew at that point something was happening in Florida. And, of course, later that day, the Panthers go and acquire Brady Tkachuk from the Ottawa Senators for 2 first-round picks in the 2026 NHL Draft, number 9 and number 25, a second-round pick in 2027, and a conditional top 10 protected first-round pick in 2029. The June 23rd brought on more trades with Calgary Flames acquiring defenseman Simon Nemec and forward Maxim Siplikov from the New Jersey Devils for defenseman Etienne Morin, a second-round pick in the 2026 NHL Draft, 35th overall, a first-round pick in 2027 or 2028, and a first-round pick in 2028 or 2029. Ottawa went on to acquire William Eklund, Kasper Halttunen, and Brandon Svoboda from the San Jose Sharks for a first-round pick in the 2026 draft, which ends up being that 9th overall pick they got in the Tkachuk deal. The Capitals go on to acquire Jordan Kyrou from the St. Louis Blues for forwards Connor McMichael and Milton Gastron, and a first-round pick in the 2026 draft, which was number 16 overall. Chicago Blackhawks acquired defenseman Bowen Byram on the 23rd and forward Jordan Greenaway in maybe one of the more lopsided deals from the Buffalo Sabres for defenseman Louis Crevier, a first-round pick in the 2026 draft, which was the 4th overall pick, and a second-round pick in the 26th draft, which was the 45th overall. So that's kind of where we sit right now. Obviously, I know I threw a lot at you. A lot to take in.
I should have jumped in and let you catch your breath a little bit there.
The last 7 days have been insane.
Crazy.
Insane. So, with that in mind, if you could take away 2 things from the trades that have happened over the last week leading into the draft, maybe touch on 2 of these trades specifically, what are your current takeaways from those trades?
The Atlantic Division is going to be a hell of a division once again. Mainly because I'm just going to touch on this briefly. The Brady Tkachuk trade, I mean, that everyone online was just absolutely seething as a result of that trade because of the fact that both Tkachuks are in Florida. Everyone hates Florida right now. And it's one of those trades where it just makes you hate the Panthers even more right now that they were able to pull that off. And I basically said, I'm like, how did Florida sell so high in Samoskevich? At that point, I get he's got some upside, 50-point player. I guess you want to try and throw to first, but just seemed a little too high. But I don't know. Seattle bit and basically made that move to make that Tkachuk trade happen. Overall, I think that William Eklund trade is great for both sides, for San Jose and both and the Ottawa Senators as well. I mean, mainly because you get a dynamic playmaker and energetic forward in Eklund, but also you get that power forward element in Kasper Halttunen. And I think he's going to be the underrated piece in that trade. He's not going to be Brady Tkachuk or be that, massive pain in the rear that he was, but he will be a thorn in the side. He's physical. He's energetic. And he's got a bomb of a clapper. You've seen him quite a bit, too, with the London Knights, with the OHL playoff runs and everything. He's got a powerful shot. I've been a big Kasper Halttunen fan. I mean, I had him as early second, teetering on late first when in his draft year. I thought he could have pushed in there, and he looks like he could have been a first-round pick. But also, too, for the San Jose Sharks to get 9th overall, too. And we don't know if they're actually going to keep both picks. Because I heard the rumblings that maybe they're open to moving the 2nd overall pick. And with that trade, it kind of feels like Stenberg is going number 2, should they keep it. But at number 9, there's still a number of defenders out there that they can keep or they can take. Obviously, Albert Smits comes up, but also Daxon Rudolph. You know how they need a right shot defender? Maybe they're higher on him than some of the other defenders, and they managed to acquire that pick. And Daxon is going to be that guy. So you take Stenberg, you take Rudolph, and even on Prospect Corner, I touched on this as like a bold prediction. What if Viggo Bjork is there for the taking and they take both Swede, Stenberg, and Bjork to play together at some point? That'll just be absolutely unbelievable to see. But realistic, I feel like it's going to be a right shot defender in Daxon. I feel like that makes the most sense. And the Bowen Byram trade, everyone's still talking about that right now, how Chicago gave up the 4th overall for a defender that, yeah, he had a good year, but one good year does not necessarily mean a massive overpay. And if they're going to pay him big, they better bank on the fact that he better replicate or at least get close to what he did last season with the Buffalo Sabres, because to me, that's an absolute win for the Sabres. I don't think, you get not a depth defender. You get a veteran defender, a Byram, who's been around the league quite a bit, who also has a Stanley Cup with Colorado. But I don't know. It just doesn't seem like one that'll move the needle because you don't know exactly which Bowen Byram you're going to get yet. If you do get the one from Buffalo, great. But if you get the one where there's been a little bit of inconsistencies and maybe he's not going to be that driving force on the back end, that could be a big risk to take. So I think that's more of a win for Buffalo than it is for Chicago at that point. And not only that, too, with the 4th overall pick, you could have had Keaton Verhoff or Chase Reed at that point. And to me, Chicago is nowhere near competing. I think you could have waited it out with either of those two guys, like 2-3 years down the line where they could come into the league. It just feels like maybe don't give up on that pick.
Yeah, no, like I said, a ton to take away here. I would say as of right now, the two winners of the offseason have to be the St. Louis Blues and the San Jose Sharks. And that's kind of where I'm sitting at this point. Obviously things can change, but to start off, obviously the Tkachuk trade was not so much of a shock. There was a lot of conversation the same way there has been with Matthews regarding how they felt after they came back from the Olympics and getting back into a Canadian market. And we've seen a bunch of U.S. stars jump ship and head south of the border, which goes back to the whole Jordan Staal post-Stanley Cup conversation of when he said, a lot of people jump ship and don't stick it out. And, so we knew it was coming. The crazy part about all this, and there's a lot of inconsistencies coming out about this trade, is one, Steve Stais kind of comes out and throws Brady under the bus, saying that a week and a half after they were bounced from the playoffs via sweep, he had 0 points. He had already asked for a trade.
Okay, we had that opening of a face-off tilt where he just got pummeled by Jordan Staal.
Yeah, and he came. Obviously, Brady came out on the Pat McAfee show and said, it's not exactly truthful that was how quick it was. There was some inconsistencies out there of when he asked for a trade. Regardless, he gave a 4-team list. It included the same of what Dylan Larkin had asked for, plus Carolina. And it just. I think a lot of people figured he would end up in Florida at some point to play with his brother.
It was Florida. It wasn't even the other 3 teams.
Yeah. Now the biggest takeaway for me is going to be how this team progresses. Now, look, they've got just over $7 million left in cap space going into this season as of right now. They have no goaltender signed. Sergei Bobrovsky's a free agent. I don't think he's going to come back. Daniel Tarasov is a UFA. I don't know if he comes out. If he does, he's probably gonna ask for more, considering that they're gonna go on a lengthy run and they don't have anybody else in front of him right now. But the idea that what I've noticed is that when Josh Norris was traded, there was a lot of people that came out. A lot of his teammates came out and discussed how sad they were, how disappointed they were that he was gone. Not one Ottawa Senator has come out yet talking about Brady Tkachuk.
And I think it was Renaud Lavoie who said that there were locker room issues. As a result of that, there was something post-Olympic where the sort of attitude kind of changed among every single one of them. And I think I can't remember. I think it was, I know I read it somewhere online where, actually I don't want to say on that because I don't want to speculate on that, but it did kind of feel like there wasn't that same cohesiveness in the room as it was in previous years. I believe
it was Steve Stais in his press conference afterwards that said it created a major distraction with the conversation of whether he was going to stay or not. You've seen the videos of Brady afterwards saying that, I want to win here in Ottawa. This is just a distraction. This is ridiculous news. We all know as of now that was not the case at all. It's one of those things where if you're going to say it, find some way to at least make it believable, I guess. Because I don't think anybody in that moment even believed it, frankly. But so that was the biggest takeaway for me, is that there's been no teammates that have spoken up in his defense, saying, this is kind of what we wanted. We wanted him here. And all that. To answer this question, actually, very good question by Ryan in Bytown. Does this news make Leafs fans nervous? About Tkachuk leaving, I assume that's what you're talking about, Ryan.
If it's about Matthews possibly jumping ship, I don't feel like that'll happen.
And even if it does, I think at this point we've made peace with the fact that I was thinking it earlier today, if you're a fan of any team right now, why would you go out and buy a jersey?
Yeah.
With a name on the back? Because right now you don't know who's sticking around and who's leaving. I
And I
think
kind of
I think
regret
this
too. I was just about to say, I kind of regret too because I have Matthew Nyes on my Drew House jersey, and his name is coming up quite a bit right now, and I'm nervous that he's going to get dealt because I
but
don't want him
again,
to move.
a guy that's come out and said very publicly multiple times that he
Yeah,
wants to be in Toronto, he wants to play with
yeah,
this group, and he wants to win with this group. So it's interesting, and like and
hmm
this is where I think loyalty has left the game a little bit, right?
yeah.
And you know, granted, Brady's allowed to do whatever he wants to do. I think in it's going to speak volumes if Ottawa comes out and starts to have an incredible season. Um, and that's the way it starts to run, right? Like if it's going to speak volumes about his leadership, about the type of guy he was in the room. If Ottawa comes out and all of a sudden they have a hot start to the season, and that's so it makes me nervous in the sense that the Atlantic is going to be a very very dangerous division this year.
Mhm.
Um, that said, if you look at the top guys on the Florida Panthers, Barkov has had serious injury issues over the last couple of seasons. Marchand has had injury issues over the last couple of seasons.
Both Kachucks
Both
too.
Tkachuks have had injury issues
Mhm.
over the last bunch of seasons. I'm not comfortable in saying this, but I'm going to say it anyways. It would not shock me if the Florida Panthers didn't make the playoffs in 26-27.
Ooh,
It would not
that's kind of
shock me.
bold. Yeah,
They would have to go out right now and sign Hellebuck to a sub $7 million contract, which I don't see happening.
yeah, or acquire him because they basically gave up all the assets, right?
Outside of that, and I'm hearing the Florida Panthers aren't done yet. But outside of that, your other option is Jordan Binnington, who by his interview at the Four Nations can't stand the Tkachuk brothers. So why would he want to go to Florida? Outside of maybe the opportunity to win, and I don't see them making the playoffs. You've got Montreal, you've got Tampa Bay, and Buffalo now with the trade that they've made is another potential top three in that division. So you're talking about the two wild card spots and hoping that the Metropolitan isn't as strong as they've been in the past.
Mhm.
And you've got Toronto fighting for a spot there with McKenna.
And let's not forget Boston, Detroit, if they could try to take a step. But if
I think
Larkin's gone,
Detroit's still where they are,
Yeah.
to be honest. But I think you've got Boston, you've got Toronto.
more questions than answers, basically.
Yeah, and so Florida's going to be in tough to try and make a playoff run this year.
Mhm.
And I think that's interesting because Matthew said on their Wingman podcast that now Brady's going to be in a better space because he doesn't have to carry a team, which shade at his former teammates, but whatever.
Mhm.
And I think there's going to be a bigger issue. There's going to be fighting for ice time. There's going to be power play time that they're fighting for. There's going to be brotherly disagreements in the room. I'm telling you, like, I have a brother.
Yeah.
You don't get
No
along
siblings
100% of the time.
I was about to say, no sibling sees eye to eye on everything.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Even in sports.
I agree. So, anyways, does it make me nervous? In some sense, not entirely. Couple more comments here on this trade. Ryan says he's shocked that the offseason is more like an NBA type of offseason.
I love it.
Yeah, Gary says Matthews always presents himself in a much more mature way. Ryan, I mean, you got to sends photo as your photos. So Matthews, in my opinion, wants out. I don't think McKenna will be as good as you think in his rookie season. And went on to say Brady was a flop if his name wasn't Tkachuk. Yeah, I mean, I'll disagree with you on the Matthews wants out right now because I think he's made it very clear what he wants Toronto to do, and Toronto's gone out and done just that and getting a defenseman that can move the puck. McKenna, I'm going to disagree with you on that too because I think McKenna from interviewing them, from being at the combine and interviewing them, he's one guy where like I think the media can brush he can brush the media off a little bit more than most prospects.
And what he said in his documentary too, pressure is a privilege.
Yeah.
I feel
and
like
he repeated that multiple times at the combine too.
Yeah, I feel like this kid has it. Even if the production is a slow, steady increase, he doesn't care what people think.
You remember we talked a few I want to say a few months ago about these top overall picks being like hockey savants almost, where like McDavid, all he thinks about is hockey, right?
Yeah.
And you can see that in his post game interviews and what have you. Like he is stressed out when he's not doing well, and he puts that pressure on himself. I find McKenna is going to be much of the same, and we saw that this year in the NCAA.
Yeah.
He was not doing well. He was called out on it, and he had
Mm-hmm.
some off ice issues, and then all of a sudden he came back and he was the Penn State was taken by storm. So.
Yeah.
Ryan, I agree. Something we talked about at the combine. He says slow start in college worries me.
It
We
was an
talked about
adjustment.
we talked about at the combine with Keaton Vierhoff, and he had been in touch with McKenna, and they both kind of came off to slow starts, and Vierhoff had a tough year. But one of the things they said is it's a major adjustment, right? You're playing against older men, guys that have been there, more structured than the CHL, and I think it's a major adjustment. So it'll be based on how he adjusts to the NHL. And I think getting a guy like McKenna there with Matthews, there with, Nylander, some of these young guys that have learned to adapt to that NHL, that game, I think it'll help. Obviously, we have, hindsight's 2020, so we'll have to see how it plays out. Anyways, my last thing about the trades that have happened over the last 7 days is one, St. Louis got a haul. Got a haul for Jordan Kyrou.
Yeah.
Like it's not even close. Like Connor McMichael, who by the way was part of the trade that sent Robert Thomas to the Hamilton Bulldogs back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be interesting. Connor McMichael, Milton Gastrin, and the Capitals' first round pick, which was 16th overall. I think that was a huge trade for St. Louis.
Yeah.
St. Louis now has what, 4 first round picks?
4 first rounders. Yeah.
4 first round picks. In this year's draft. So I think St. Louis did amazing work. I think San Jose did amazing work.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm with you. And was it Gary who said it earlier here? Somebody said it earlier. Oh yeah, Gary. How does Kyle Davidson still have a job in hockey? If you're Connor Bedard right now, you're looking at Kyle Davidson saying like, what the fuck were you thinking? You had a 4th overall pick. Could get a defenseman potentially that is going to be better than Bo Byram, and not a shot at Bo Byram, but he's had a tough career so far. And you traded away along with Crevier, who's what, 6'7",
and who could get pucks on net. Like he's a volume shooter
for Bo Byram. Oh man, if you're a Chicago Blackhawks fan right now, you have to be worried about the potential that Bedard says, forget this.
I will say this. I did see like a lot of talk about how Buffalo is going to use that pick to swap it for something else. So that's reassurance for something. But now, you know how I said I fear about Matthew Knies being dealt.
Do they send it back to Chicago for Connor Bedard?
Well, I made a joke. I'm like, Matthew Knies for Bedard, 1-for-1. Let's do it. Right.
Yeah.
But also, like, I just saw right now on Leafs Morning Take, David Pagnotta saying that Leafs have something big going on.
That scares me.
Didn't elaborate.
That scares me.
It's very scary because of the fact that what the hell is going on. And again, this is the new Maple Leaf regime. They're being tight-lipped. They're not letting anything leak out about
something big scares me.
Someone's moving. I do think that if there is a big move in play to happen, it's going to come down to Carlo and Riley. I feel like there's more traction with that right now. But then again, I'm no insider. I'm not with the team. It
doesn't worry you a little bit that Matthew Knies might be involved when he says there's something big?
It does. It really does. And the only reason why is I would only trade Matthew Knies, and we talked about this before, is if you're getting an absolute haul. We've talked about how there were reports that, Chris Johnson said that there are teams that really value Matthew Knies because of the contract, because of what he could do as a power forward.
Gary says he said big, not Knies oriented. Yeah, but Gary, this is the new Maple Leafs regime where everything's on the DL.
Yeah,
they don't know. The insiders have no fucking idea.
But then
that includes Elliot Friedman most of the time now.
Chenka did say that he's not actively shopping him, but everyone is saying that everyone's still gauging the market, but they want an overpay, and that kind of makes sense because I'm not letting this guy go for a minimal package.
If San Jose comes to you and says, "We'll give you the 2nd and the 9th for Matthew Knies," are you going for it?
No, not going for it. because the Maple Leafs need a established defender right now. You don't, as much as I would love to take Stenberg and or Reed or Verhoff at 2, Jackson Rudolph or another forward at 9, you're in win now mode. That's why they went out and got Darren Radish. Mm-hmm. That's why they went out and improved their mobility on the back end with Emil Andre. Samuel Ersson up in the air still. If I'm trading Matthew Nyes, I'm not trading him for anything less than a top 2 defender.
I'm not trading Matthew Nyes. I'm not trading Matthew Nyes.
That is true. Yeah. That is the other point too. If only, and depends on the name of the top defender, I'm trading Matthew Nyes. Would I like to keep Matthew Nyes? Absolutely. This guy's, as you mentioned, this is the guy that said that he wants to be here, but the fact that there's no trade protection on him does make him a candidate, but I hope it doesn't happen.
This guy in year 3, his second full season in the league was a 30-goal scorer.
Yeah.
And has seen a production increase over the last 3 seasons. He's only going into his 4th season. He's a strong power forward. He's 23 years old. If you trade Matthew Nyes, you are sending a message to the entire franchise and the fan base that you don't give a shit what it's going to take to win. Mm-hmm. Because Matthew Nyes, albeit maybe not a first-line guy, is a guy that on a Stanley Cup winning team,
he's a
second-line guy that's going to be a role player like an Ivan Barbashev or a Thomas Hurdle or Taylor Hall.
Yeah.
Or a Taylor Hall. That's exactly it. Anyways, I don't trade Matthew Nyes at any point.
Even if it was for like Werenski, would you do that at all? Like as a part of a package deal?
It would have to be a big package. And and Werenski's a fantastic player. He's an incredible defender, but I don't know. If you're win now, you want to get Werenski without having to give up Nyes.
Fair enough.
That's what you want. That's the ideal package if you're John Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
Gary says, I'm less worried about this year as long as they are better. Next year is where I want real improvements.
Valid.
Yeah, I think
Valid.
I think you want to see
just want to get back to the playoffs.
Yeah, I think you want playoffs this year. I think you're a failure if you don't make the playoffs. I think you need to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Anyways, so the trades are still coming in. Trades are not done. It's the off season, and it's going to be a crazy one. We mentioned it, like the way the NHL is now. It's all going to be off season moves, the biggest ones. I got Hunter over here on TikTok asking about thoughts on the Hawks trade. Hunter, we just kind of went over it. Not impressed at all with
not
with
a
the
good
Hawks.
Win for Chicago.
Kyle Davidson shouldn't have a job. Connor Bedard's going to run from Chicago, and it's not pretty. It's not pretty in Chicago right now.
Now, again, it could work out. Maybe Byram still finds that consistency, but 4th overall, man, it's tough. I wouldn't give that up.
You could have potentially, depending on how the 2nd and 3rd pick go, you could have had Caleb Malhotra.
Mm-hmm.
To add to Frondell, to add to Bedard. You could have had Vigo Bjork to add to that group. You could have had Carson Carrolls. You could have had, Daxon Rudolph if you want to take him that high. Like there's so much more potential there. And Hunter says he woke up in shambles. he's a Hawks fan.
Poor Hunter.
Yeah.
I feel for you, bud.
Yeah, it's LeBron, Gary says, breaking news from Gary here. LeBron says AJ Greer plans to go to market.
I think that's been kind of in the works for a while now. I could have a few weeks ago. I thought I saw that he wanted to go because I was on the fence of possibly signing him as a Maple Leaf, or if I'm John Chaika, to improve that 4th line. But after seeing what Landon Sim did in the playoffs, I was going to say, forget AJ Greer. Forget AJ Greer. Sim. Sorry, we got our own AJ Greer in the Marlies right now, and he's still very young too. I'd give him an opportunity if he ever gets a chance. Yeah, no, 100%. Okay. Anyways, we're gonna move on here just a little bit. Obviously, the
Riley's name is out there. The reports are that he gave a 4-team trade list. His agent gave a 4-team trade list, and that they are all Western Conference teams. But something could change given what arises. More teams could be added on. There's not much more to discuss about that regarding the trade list, especially because we know that it's his name, McCabe's name, and Carlo's name out there. It's a backlog on the Leafs back end. But I do want to get your opinion on it. Like, we talked about loyalty, and we talked about the loss of loyalty in the game, and obviously Vegas is a perfect example. They've gone on to have very successful runs because of their lack of loyalty. Are you disappointed or sad that Morgan Riley, potentially does not finish his career as a Maple Leaf?
I am a little sad because of what he resembled. I mean, especially what he went through early on in his career, going through a rebuild, going through this transition of the new era, basically, of that failed core 4 attempt. He had a decent season where he had 70 points, and I think that was the benchmark for him to try to replicate, but he wasn't quite able to replicate that and find that success as a top puck-moving defender in the league. And every single year, he just regressed a little bit more. And this season, I think, was the turning point where he just can't keep up. And that, to me, is the sad part because of how much, or because I think coming into this season, he lost a few pounds too. Like, he slimmed down a bit, maybe thinking, hey, maybe he could get a little bit quicker. Maybe he could be a little bit more agile. He wasn't that, and he got beat quite a bit. And again, the defensive positioning and awareness just isn't quite there. But overall, as a person off the ice, Morgan Riley is what players should strive for to be a leader. Vocal, respectful, caring, very much involved with the community in a lot of aspects as well. It is disappointing because he is a beloved fan favorite. There's no doubt about that. It's just very disappointing that we never got to see that consistency, or at least just become a consistent 60-point defender, because it just was not there. It sucks. It's going to hurt, but I feel like the first time he comes back to Toronto, there should be a standing ovation for him because of what he did and what he meant to this organization.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's been there since the beginning of like their kind of downfall. He was there when they were losers. He was there when they started to make that push for the playoffs. He was there when they finally made the playoff run. He was there when they finally got past the first round. He was there for the Game 7 upset. Like, he's been around, and I think that's what makes it a little bit of a tougher pill to swallow, because as a fan, you do have loyalty, right? Like, regardless of if you think a player's played poorly over the last couple of years, and obviously he's had some changes outside of the game as well. We've talked about that numerous times, and becoming a dad changes your perspective on things, and
he did start to show that dad energy that one time.
Yeah, and he does, and he obviously wants to be there as well. He's 32 years old. He was the 5th overall pick in 2012. He's 3rd all time on the Leafs defensive list for games played, and 2nd all time behind Boris Elming in points. Like, this guy is truly what. This is what I was saying about Mitch Marner when he left, is that you can be a longtime Leaf and put your heart and soul and sweat and blood and tears on the ice and maybe never win a cup, but you're going to be looked at as a Leaf legend. The Wendell Clarks, the Doug Gilmours, the Lanny McDonalds, the Darryl Sittlers, those type of guys. And Morgan Riley's that. And to be where he is on the Leafs all-time list and to have contributed the way that he has, I mean, it's obviously disappointing that he's not going to finish his career with the Leafs, and I hope when it's all said and done, he signs a one-day contract and retires as a Leaf. That's kind of where I'm at. But it's definitely going to be hard to see Morgan Riley in a different uniform, but there's a logjam on the Leafs back end, and this is, at the end of the day, a business, and the Leafs are going to have to find a way.
And this is the new guard too, like the new regime. Like,
this is the new guard.
You haven't won with him, and you could say the same thing with like Matthews and Nylander too. If you haven't won with them, you got to find some change, right? But now it just seems like defense is the major issue, not offense.
Yeah.
And that needs to be the focal point. And unfortunately, Riley may be the one to gone.
And he was slower at foot, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
he did become a little bit slower and what have you. But um, here comes Jordan with some breaking news too. Yarmo just
Yeah.
confirmed that Tuck is going to market.
Interesting.
They're looking at
They couldn't get it done. Yeah.
They're looking at some sign and trades. Potentially a big thing that Toronto might be in on. Who knows? Who knows? It's hard to do it in division.
If he's asking for 10 mil up, I would be hesitant on that.
Yeah,
I wouldn't give that.
He had the best contract year though.
Yeah,
like the best contract year. Like could not.
I think 9.5 is 9.5 for me is that sweet spot in terms of a contract. Anything more, I'd be very hesitant. But then again, if you try to get an extra year, maybe that AAV comes down, but I highly doubt that's possible.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Gary's, you might know this better than I do. Gary's asking, he watched Alexander Karmarov in North Bay this year. It's the only OHL game he saw this year. Is he on any prospect list?
See, here's the thing. He's got size. Dude's 7'1", 280 pounds.
I think I just saw him get wrecked in like an off season kind of, I don't know, men's league type of game.
Yeah, the thing is, that's 2 assists in 20 games. I mean, I compare it to Maxim Sokolowski too. I know there's a lot of talk with him heading into the draft too, but he's big. He's got size. He's physical. Not much else other than that. I would not. He could be a flyer in that 6th, 7th round. Great. But I just don't see a whole lot of upside with his game. I think there's a little bit more with Sokolowski because he had showed a bit of progression, but maybe the offense isn't going to come.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So for Morgan Riley, obviously disappointed, but I do think that he's going to be part of a move before the season starts. I don't think he starts the year with the Maple Leafs. So we'll have to obviously we'll have more on that as it plays out, but we'll see where that goes. Before we get into the next point here, just a quick word from our sponsors over at DraftKings Sportsbook. The draft is right around the corner, and as such, where will your team pick and who will they pick? The DraftKings Sportsbook app is now available in all 50 states and includes all markets. Sweat every shift of the series all in one place with one app. I'm just going to
Bet with DK Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 1-800-MY-RESET. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, bet text pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 and over. Void in Ontario. Event contract trading with DraftKings predictions involves risk of loss. Sportsbook bonus bets expire in 7 days. $50 in predictions dollars issued weekly for 3 weeks expire in 1 year. Redeem one non-withdrawable reward. Availability varies. Predictions offer void in New York. Ends June 28. Terms at dkng.co/audio.
Anyways, we might as well stick with the Leafs blue line. There's a lot more going on with the Leafs in terms of their defensive coverage and the logjam that is on the back end at this point in time. Brandon Carlo's name is out there as well as Jake McCabe. We talked about how much McCabe means to that roster. Carlo obviously had a bad year this past year. His name kind of comes up in the conversation when it comes to poor asset management, but I'm going to tie in the Carlo conversation with the potential that, with the fact that the Leafs did go out and get a Darren Radish. Yeah. And Darren Radish was seen as one of the biggest free agents on the market this offseason. The Leafs obviously make a trade, 5th round pick for his rights, and then 5th round pick in a sign and trade where Tampa Bay signed him to an 8-year deal, $68 million, a lot of signing bonus. There's a lot of conversation about how it's going to look for him in the final few years of that contract. But in saying that, we talk about how the Leafs are in a win now. Yeah. And that to me is why this contract is so important in the first 3 to 4 years of that contract rather than the back end of that contract. Because you'll see a buyout. You'll see, potentially moved as he has like a limited no movement clause in the final 2 years of that contract. So with that in mind, how much does that Darren Radish signing, a power play specialist, a guy with a boomer from the point, how much does that tie in, and how much does that change the Leafs' approach with Brandon Carlo?
I mean, it's at the forefront. The Maple Leafs were slow on the breakouts. They were banking on shutting things down, breaking out, but it was ineffective. You need guys that can skate the puck every now and then and not just make a long stretch pass in the process. Darren Radish can skate the puck out. That, I think, is a big addition right there. Carlo is a little flat-footed at times. He can defend rushes, but sometimes gets beat quite a bit. Darren Radish is physical. He can step up. He can lay into guys. He could take away those opportunities and rush chances. The thing that bothers me still with the Darren Radish contract, 30 years old. I think that's the huge sticking point right there. And then he pops off with 70 points. And then you give him 8.5. I get the salary cap's going up. I get that you're not banking on him to be a 70-point guy. But if you're looking at him to be a 50 to 60-point defender, I think that's more realistic with a guy that can at least still get double-digit goals, 15 every now and then, possibly hit 20. I just also kind of feel that he was writing a lot of the, not necessarily the power play, but getting those passes from Kucherov and the top line from Tampa Bay. You could possibly get that with Toronto, with Austin Matthews, with you feeding him for one-timers, Kevin McKenna feeding you for one-timers. Same with William Nylander, the power play, wherever he is going to be in the lineup, whoever he's going to pass up to the forwards, he's going to get points. It's just that I'm still operating under old or like pre to like mid-COVID era where you don't want to fork over that kind of money to a guy that just pops off like that. And again, you're not paying for him to replicate that. You're just paying him to do what he does best. Get pucks on net, wire it, be a strong transitional force on your exits, entries. He had all those numbers. He was a great possession type player. That is the change of the guard for the Maple Leafs right now, where they want to be more mobile, more impactful. I just think that maybe if you get 4 to 5 good years out of that deal, I think that's going to be a success. But because he's 30 years old, because he popped off late, this could backfire. And if one bad season happens, you could rest assured everyone's going to talk about that, where you're paying him 8.5 to, get pucks on net and he's not producing kind of thing. You're going to have that same talk over and over again, kind of like Morgan Riley, different players, like archetype or whatever. But with Radish, there is upside. I think that the first 3 to 4 years could benefit. If you get a 5th year of him being productive, fantastic. Where it tails off, we'll worry about that after. But I just worry about the production, and I hope it's going to be consistent, because if it's anything less than 50 points, I think this is going to be very, very bad. But we'll see what happens, because he has been productive. He did put up 50 points in the AHL one year. Back-to-back consistent 30-point seasons for the Lightning before he popped off. So maybe there is something, but I still hold my judgment sometimes.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's important to note that it's going to be the first few years that are key in this contract. We've talked about, Leafs being in a win now and needing to get some production on their back end, and they haven't had that over the last number of years. Oliver Ekman-Larsson did his best last year, and of course he wanted to stay and he wants to be there. Darren Radish is a Toronto boy. Talked about how his dad's going to be excited that he's going to be playing. Yeah. He wanted to be here, wanted to sign that contract. Didn't mince his words when he talked about playing for the Maple Leafs and what it means to his family. So I think in that sense, I think it's important. I also think that it will be interesting to see how this contract progresses. Like, we're not naive to the fact that those back 4 years are probably going to be, we're going to see a decline. Yeah. He'll be 34 by the time he hits the middle of this contract. But in saying that, like, if you can get good production out of him the first 4 years, let's be honest, the Leafs haven't had a defenseman that can shoot the puck like that on the power play since Brian McCabe. Yeah. And you talk about Kucherov sending the pass over to him. Well, You've got Gavin McKenna now. You've got William Nylander who has eyes. You've got Austin Matthews who can shoot the puck. Now you have two dangerous options on the power play. You've got Oliver Ekman-Larsson, whose shot might not be as strong as somebody like Darren Radish, and then all of a sudden now you've got Darren Radish who can shoot the puck. So maybe Oliver Ekman-Larsson goes back to him. You might be talking about going back to 3 forwards, 2 defense on that power play unit, and now you've got the right pieces in the places that to get that job done. So I think that's going to be an interesting factor in this contract as well. Now, in saying that, it does change the Brandon Carlo ask. I think if you can get a couple picks for Brandon Carlo, again, it's going to be poor asset management overall by this team. But I think if you can move off of that contract and move off of Brandon Carlo, I think that's important to look at as well. Now that you have that backlog, and Emile Andre we talked about last week as well. To have those pieces, it's going to be important for them as they start to move other assets like Morgan Riley, like a Brandon Carlo, to potentially gain more draft capital or better prospects within their pool. So
it'll be interesting to see where Carlo goes, because they're asking for multiple picks, mid-round picks, basically, right? So this is just me spitballing here. What if you go to Chicago right now and get your 37th overall pick back that you probably gave? I think that's the one they gave up for Jake McCabe. And you get the 66th overall pick as well. I think that's
right now it seems like Davidson's willing to send anything anywhere.
And that's the thing too. That's where I'm going to be like, maybe I'm calling up Davidson right now. Maybe asking for that early third. Maybe I'm asking for my pick back. And I'm pretty sure you've seen Draft Day where Sonny Weaver wants his picks back, basically. Basically, it's the same situation right there. I want my pick back, even though it was a different GM at the time. But I don't know. I'm just curious, because looking at teams with multiple picks in the rounds, Calgary has multiple. They have 3 second-round picks. They have 2 thirds. I don't know if he's willing to go to Calgary, but I feel like if they got Byram, maybe you can swap and get a couple picks back, maybe even a mid-tier player as well for Carlo, whether it's a second or a third. I don't know, but just spitballing ideas here.
Here's a curious one for you. How about if you go to St. Louis and you say, St. Louis, you've got 4 picks in the first round. You're going to build your draft capital.
I'll at least take that late first.
And what if you don't even take the first, but you ask them for 73, 75, and 77? 3 third-round picks. Or you get a late first and maybe one of those 70s.
I'd rather take that late first.
If they're willing to move it.
Yeah.
For a Brandon Carlo deal to add to the strength of that back end. I mean, they've already got.
I was about to say, it's rumored that the Leafs wanted to get into that first round. Any way you can, right?
Yeah. I mean, they do have 60 and 69, which we talked about moving up as well. But you got to think there's options on the table here for them, right? So it'll definitely be interesting to see how it plays out. But I think Brandon Carlo's an asset that you see moved in the next couple of days here. Spike, he says Will is gonna wear his hero Easton Cowan's number in Philly. Who are we talking about here? Will.
Don't know.
Not sure, Spike. He's gonna get all the opportunity to put up points. Anyways, okay. We're gonna jump to the last thing we've got here, and obviously it's the NHL draft. I mean, it's coming this weekend. Sorry, Wall. He says Wall.
Wall. Okay.
Okay.
I got a little confused there. I'm like, who's Will? But yeah, okay. Wall makes sense.
What a nice
nice tribute.
What a nice tribute he threw to the Leafs in Toronto as well. You notice how he didn't throw Leaf fans under the bus?
Yeah.
You notice that?
Yeah. Crazy
how that's something that could
once you gain the respect of the fan base, you don't throw them under the bus.
I don't think Marner's ever going to live that one down with me, but
probably.
Anyways, the NHL draft obviously is just around the corner this weekend. Like we said, Mark Sheg is on the ground in Buffalo, getting all the stories that he can get, and he is good at pulling things out of whether it be GMs or he had a great relationship with Jarmo Kekalainen when he was in Columbus as well. So good to see that as well. So maybe he can get something out of Jarmo when it comes to that Alex Tuch deal. But we're here to talk about the Leafs, and we need some solid draft capital. We need some solid picks coming this way. The Leafs have the first overall pick, and CJ came out today and basically said it's Gavin McKenna.
Mm-hmm.
Now, McKenna's Instagram, I don't know if anybody watches those.
He was at BMO Field yesterday.
He was at BMO Field. He's in Toronto, getting ready for what I assume is going to be the Leafs draft watch party. I bet you they parade Gavin McKenna out as soon as he gets drafted and showcases him to the fans that are going to be in house for that.
Yeah.
So let's skip past that first pick, okay?
Yeah.
Because I think we all know that which direction it's going to go here.
I feel like maybe Stenberg. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, exactly.
That'll throw a wrench in everything.
That would throw a huge wrench in everything.
Yeah.
From there we jump over to the second round, and the Leafs have the 60th pick, which came from Buffalo, which came from Ottawa, which came from the LA Kings. But the Leafs now hold the 60th overall pick. From there, they have the 69th pick. So let's get into those two mid-round picks for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
You've been all over this. You do mock drafts. You do use that little tool where you can make your picks as well. So I want to get your feel on this 60th and 69th. What Gary says, do I need to start using Insta? Yes, Gary.
Yeah.
Yes. No, it came up on my X feed. So that's how I saw it. But 60th and 69th, two middle of the pack picks, a lot of capable talent down there, and you've got Mark Leach, who's at the helm for the Leafs in terms of their drafting this season. Where are you going with the 60th pick?
I'm going defender. I feel like that's probably you take forward with McKenna, but then again, if you move further up into the draft and you get a early second or late first, that could change everything. It can change your draft plans, and you could get somebody else. But as of right now, I'm going defender with either or 60 or 69. I feel like they need a defender. Couple of options still stick out at me. If you want mobility, you get Axel Elofsson. I feel like he's a great puck mover and one of those underrated names later on in the draft. But it's two of the coming from the CHL that really, really caught my eye this year, especially in the playoffs. And both players really had standout second halves too. Brett Liskey from the Everett Silvertips just missed out on the Memorial Cup, WHL champ. And Alexander Bilecki from the Kitchener Rangers, who won the OHL championship and Memorial Cup. I feel like there's not going to be a whole lot of talk around Bilecki because of the fact that he was further down the Kitchener lineup. But as a third pairing, he was noticeable and impactful. And I feel like he's just scratching the surface of what he could be and move further up as a potential 3-4 defender, second pairing kind of guy, where he's got good mobility, great on the exits, great control, great awareness to jump up into the rush. I feel like he's got like really great offensive awareness. Same with Brett Liskey too. I feel like he's got some upside there. I should note that Bilecki's a left-handed shot. Liskey is a righty. And Liskey also played with Landon Dupont for quite a bit, and he held his own and kept up and played with the pace that Dupont did with the Silvertips, who is now going to University of Michigan, just announced today. I feel like if any of those two defenders are still on the board, I feel like those are ones with high upside, high ceiling, or like high development curve type of players. And the Maple Leafs have been known to draft those kind of guys in the past, high impact, high upside kind of guys. Watch out for those two, either whether it's the 60th or 69th pick. I feel like if they're both still on the board, hell, I would take both of them, whether it's Liskey or Bilecki at 60 and then 69 right there. Yeah, there could be a forward there, but if those two defenders are available at both options, I would take both. And that increases your defensive depth to go along with the Ben Danford, and you get a little bit more mobility out of it because I feel like they're better skaters and better transitional players than Ben Danford.
Before I get to mine, I want to get your take on this comment as well from Owen Gale. What are your thoughts on Igor Shilov? Could he fit in Toronto for the later rounds?
I have Shilov in that late first, early second round range. For me in my final ranking, he was in that like 34 to like 40 range. So early second, I feel like he'll get his name called there. If the Maple Leafs do find a way to try and get that second first rounder or early second pick, I definitely feel like you can get him at good value there. Really highly gifted offensive centerman, great skill, great creativity. 6', maybe 176 pounds, needs to get a little bit stronger, but man, he put up good numbers and solid ones at that with the Victoriaville Tigre and the QMJHL this year. So definitely he could fit. He's got great skill. And I think with this, transition moving up the guard where you want to add a little bit more offensive creativity to your game, Shilov definitely does have that. So I think it may be out of the Leafs range, but if they somehow get to him, I think he could be a good fit and a good option.
Yeah, Owen, great question, and thanks for tuning in. Appreciate the comment. I agree with Peter. I've got him at 38 in my final rankings. That said, like if the Leafs are able to get to a late first round, early second, I think he's a guy that they could certainly take a look at. Highly skilled, sees the game at a high pace, high level, and can make those plays at that high pace as well. So I think he's a great option. Yeah. It's just a matter of getting there. I don't think he'll be available at 60, but definitely a guy that they could take a look at.
And I have him at 35 too. So yeah, way early.
Yeah, early second. Yeah. Gary says, how many prospects will they draft that have late birthdays? The Leafs seem to use that as a strategy to their advantage. That's a great question. Mm-hmm. Something we'll definitely keep an eye on. But to be honest, Gary, I've never noticed that before from watching previous drafts. But certainly I'll take a look and go back and see where they've utilized that tool before. In terms of 60, I actually had Liskey at 69. So I had him. I didn't have him at 69 in my draft rankings. I
had him 63rd.
Yeah. So I had him at 67. So I had the potential that the Leafs could take him with the 69th pick. My 60th pick would actually. I was looking at Jonas Lagerberg Hohen, a right winger out of the Nacional. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I just think like what he brings, it's very similar to Shilov, just maybe at a slightly less developed pace, but a guy that can certainly build into that position and be a strong winger for the Leafs in years to come. He's got that Swedish connection with, say, Matt Sundin. He's got that Swedish connection with William Nylander. Can really fit into that room. And, just a lot of high-end potential. I think his ceiling's way up here, and I don't even think he's coming close to hitting that. So I think for me at 60, if you can get your hands on him, I think it'd be a great option for the Leafs, and I'd be interested to see if they move on that. And then, of course, at 69, like I said, I've got Liskey. I wasn't incredibly high on him in my previous rankings, and I kept seeing him come up in your rankings. I'll be honest. Yeah. And so I took a closer look and I started watching a little bit more of his tape, and he started to grow on me. So in that sense, like I think the Leafs would be obviously, very lucky to get a guy like that at 69 if he falls to 69. In saying that, I do have Bilecki, as you mentioned, ranked at 74. One of the other guys that I would keep an eye on is Luke Scherer as well. I've got him at 65, just at the top end of that third round. So there's potential that he could fall to 69 as well. If he does, another great option out of the U.S. development program that Toronto could take a very close look at, albeit an American getting drafted by a Canadian team, and we don't know the future of that down the road. So.
Glad you brought up Lagerberg Hohen, because not to toot my own horn, but I basically wrote his draft profile, and he was on a really good heater to start the year before he had a leg injury, and he missed a lot of opportunities. And I felt like if he was at that U18 tournament, I felt like his draft stock could have probably vaulted him a little bit higher up. And even looking back to, so he basically last season, he had a Cy Young year, basically 27 goals and only 3 assists. And do you know where he was where he was sandwiched between in terms of goals scored in the U20 last year?
No, sorry, I don't.
Two guys that are going in the first round: Ivar Stenberg, 26, Lagerberg Cohen, 27, and Vigo Bjork at 27. So he had the same goal scoring pace as both of those guys. And if he just added a few more assists to his point totals, he could have been higher up in terms of point production as well. But the fact that he was keeping pace goal scoring wise with the top two Swedes this year, I think that the upside is there for him. And if he is there for the Maple Leafs, if they're taking a forward, I would absolutely love that.
Another interesting name by Owen Gale here. Might not be on our draft boards, but a kid by the name of Cameron Allard.
Saw his name come up quite a bit. I know he's like a late.
He's a Saskatchewan boy, I believe.
Yeah.
I want to say he's WHL. Is he WHL?
WHL, yeah.
Yeah, here he is.
Brandon Wheat
Defenseman.
Kings.
Right-handed defenseman. 6'3", 196 pounds. Big boy.
Toronto's gone off the board defenders later on too, or late, players that aren't really on anyone's radar. And I know he's ranked 130th by Central Scouting, so there's that possibility he may not get drafted. But if he's there as a flyer and they like what they see, who knows? I mean, definitely a late round pick, but not one that was really on my radar to start.
No, absolutely. But again, great question. Great names coming up here. Owen, fantastic insight to the prospect world here as well. From 69th, as of right now, the Leafs sit at 85th with Philly's pick. And then again, 114 with originally Seattle's pick. They got in a deal with Anaheim. They go on to 158 from Colorado, and then 169 from San Jose. So potentially, we don't need to go deep into this draft. But I would like to get your insight on 85, because I think that's an interesting pick as well. I think 85, we're still sitting third round. Late third round, albeit, but there's a lot of interesting names in that 80 to 87 range. So if you're John Chayka, you're on the board at 85. Who you got?
I'm going to briefly mention. I did write a post on 5 forward options at 85, or 5 options with the 85th pick. Both forward, or a lot of forwards, one defender, 2. I mean, I know you're pretty high on this guy too, Evan Jardine from the Youngstown Phantoms. I see him as a really good fit. The guy has speed for days. He's got wheels, and he knows how to use that body and size to his advantage to close gaps, get the inside track on players. I feel like he fits that high competitive, offensive-minded, mid-6 kind of forward role for the Maple Leafs. Nils Bartholson, dynamic shooter. Hard, heavy shot, great one-timer, great wrist shot. I'd probably put him up as one of the top shooters in this draft, probably top 10, I would say. Obviously, a lot more players that have a little bit better accuracy and everything like that. But, man, he's got great power, and he can pick corners very well. Viggo Sorensen, I really liked him at the U18. I think he was very underrated for Sweden on that Gold Cup or gold medal run. Timothy Runso, right shot defender, great transitional game. Relied heavily by the Victoria Royals, and I think he got more of an opportunity too with Keaton Verhoff gone, and the fact that he rose and elevated his game, something to look after or look at. And in terms of,
he's headed to Miami too, of Ohio.
Yeah, so he's going for like a little bit more of his development to work on in the NCAA, and I think that could work wonders for him. So those are just 4 guys for me right there that really stand out, especially at 85.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Runso. He's the guy I would see at 85 if he's available. I think as you mentioned with the Victoria Royals last season, he had 44 points in 68 games, right-handed shot. Just brings a lot of potential to that blue line, and he's a guy that you could get late in late in the draft, or late in the third round. I shouldn't say late in the draft, late in the third round, that offers up that strong offensive opportunities as well. He's also 6'3" and 196 pounds, so not a small guy by any means, but a guy that can also add some offensive prowess to his game, as well as play that physical game as well. There's a little bit of development that needs to still happen there, but I think the Leafs could do that, especially with young guys in the organization, like a Ben Danford, like somebody, you know, of that magnitude that can come over and kind of guide Runso to really, you know, look at the holes in his game and take him to the next level. So I think that's the guy I look at 85. But again, anything can happen at the draft. We are just watching games from the outside, looking in, seeing what we see as rankers, and from there we rank the players. We don't we don't see the intricacies maybe sometimes that they do, and you've got a guy like Mark Leach at the helm, so it's going to be interesting to see where they go with these picks, and even deeper into the draft. Those later rounds often don't make the show, but you never know. Owen with another one. I know my prospects, even players from the QMJHL, because I have a QMJHL team where I live, and I'm a season ticket holder, so I see lots of teams and draft eligible players, and I analyze. I love it, Owen.
Love it, man.
Hopefully you hit subscribe on this channel and you come back and talk some more prospects. The both of us love prospect talk as well. We both do rankings for the Hockey Writers, so make sure you check those out and come back to us, DM us, whatever you need to do, and we can talk some more about the Q, and we can talk some more about how it's affected by the NCAA. We can talk some more about prospects altogether as the draft rolls in this weekend. So, Owen, we appreciate you joining the show and all of your insight from the city of the Q. So, with that said, that's all I've got for this episode. I do have to shout out a friend of the show, Emma Malte, who unfortunately had to leave Toronto as a free agent and signed with the Montreal Victoire. So we hope for the best. We hope for the best with her. Obviously, joining a championship team, it's going to be a rough year for the Toronto Scepters in the PWHL, but we'll continue to watch as the league is growing. The league is growing, so it's going to be a lot of fun as we continue to watch the women's game. Obviously, add more cities, add more stops, and add more players to their organizations. Before we close it out here, my friend, anything else you want to add?
It's in the title, and I added it in just to the notes here, just so we don't forget too. About we could just touch briefly on that. I
almost forgot
Mike Babcock coming back to the Edmonton Oilers.
Not memorable
at all. And it's watching that press conference or seeing the highlights of everything, even that 101 with Ryan Rishaug too. It's like he's never left. It's like he hasn't changed one bit. And yes, he said that, when you do something wrong, you got to take a step back. You got to evaluate. Yeah, I agree with that. But let's just hope that it doesn't happen again with you doing something stupid that could put your, not necessarily just create a little bit of a controversy and drama. But we've just had enough of that. This is the third time right now. I get that you got the vote of confidence from McDavid. I get you got the vote of confidence from Draisaitl. But if this doesn't work out, and Zach Hyman too, yeah. I mean, basically, if I'm pretty sure he was probably high on Mitch's work ethic list when you told him to make that years ago. It just kind of feels like you have one more shot at this. Don't screw it up. But I feel like Mike Babcock is not the answer in Edmonton.
Can we start referring to Edmonton as the city of second chances?
And especially just regurgitating a lot of the Leafs players.
Instead of the Edmonton Oilers, let's call it the city of second chances.
Yeah. Too many.
Yeah, you want to go through the list? Perry, Kane, Bowman, Babcock. Anyways, regardless, it is important to bring awareness to it, because the press conference, when he was asked why he left Columbus, his response wasn't, I messed up. It was, my wife called me. She didn't like the vibe, and she said, let's get out of here. Yeah,
you're basically deflecting everything that happened or that was said and done.
It is very much in line with what narcissism looks like.
Yeah.
And is he a winning coach? Absolutely. Absolutely. You can't take away from what he's done. It's not going to be the top guys that feel it from him. It never has been the top guys that feel it from him. It's always been players on that third and fourth line, those depth guys that feel it. So,
and they already said that they're going to try and limit the ice time too to get more players involved too. But how is that going to work out when the Oilers have no depth? You have no defense. You don't have steady goaltending. How is that going to work out? Feel for you, Owen. I feel for you.
Yeah, Owen says he's not ready for this season with Babcock behind the bench. It'll be interesting. I mean, they might get over that hump, and we'll wait and see. And if he wins, I mean, that's what the goal is at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it's a business, and people do get second chances, and this is his third, so we'll see where it goes from there. But it definitely an interesting choice to make when we talk about the carousel of the old boys club. But Gary says Stan Bowman is getting the coach he deserves. Maybe they will finally fire him. He's not good at his job. He's walked into Kane and Taves and McDavid. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. And he's basically ruining McDavid and Draisaitl. He was just a byproduct of keeping everything together with Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. All right. Well, anyways, that's yeah. I'm glad you brought it up. I put in the title and I completely forgot about him because
we were so invested in the actual hockey news that mattered.
Not that memorable. Not that memorable. Anyways, Owen, Gary, Spike, all you guys who joined in the show today, we appreciate you tuning in as always. We will have a lot more following this weekend's draft, and the Leafs have the top pick. Likely going to be Gavin McKenna, so we'll be talking Gavin McKenna next episode in the blue and white. That's all we have for this episode, 241 of the Sticks and the Six podcast. For more from the Hockey Podcast Network, DraftKings, BioSteel, and SeatGeek, check out the show description for all your promo codes. Until next week, when we're on 242, that's all we got for the Sticks and the Six podcast. For Peter and myself, have a good